Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Yeah, I changed my background. If you're looking on video, this is Spyglass Hill in Monterey Bay. It's amazing. That's down by Carmel where they golf all the time. I wanted to do something different today. I wanted to talk about what it means to be an American. And that might sound weird to you, but I think we're lost. I feel to come back to that touchstone often because I really do feel lost with everything that's gone on. And, and so I decided to use my marketing brain because this is what we do in marketing. In marketing, we just design these things called personas. If you're doing good marketing, this is what you do. And the reason you do a persona, in some cases, you might have one, like a former company that I used to work for. That's a bad job at marketing. And while I often asserted that, it didn't matter. Nobody gave a crap. So one persona would be a bad job at marketing, but multiple personas would be a good job at marketing. And what a persona does is it helps you understand the core characteristics of who you're trying to sell to. So in marketing, we get, kind of, it depends. I mean, it can really vary by what it is you're selling, but if you just think about who it is you want to reach, then you kind of figure out the traits of that person and what those are. So you can make sure you tailor your messages to meet their interests. In fact, the number one thing, the number one love-hate relationship between engineers and marketing is engineers get so excited because they create something new. And I can give you an example, like we can now store 10 gigabytes on a Microsoft Zune. 10 gigabytes. Can you imagine the excitement they had the day at Zoom when they could do 10 gigabytes and the marketing people weeping quietly in the corner? Because how in the heck are we supposed to try to tell somebody that 10 gigabytes in your pocket in your Zoom is important? You don't care. You're using it to listen to music. And I'm laughing because you're one of 5 people who used it to listen to music. But the point is, the marketing people figured out how to say it's music in your pocket. Get the difference? 10 gigabytes of crap is nothing, but music in your unlimited music in your pocket, even better. Your personal playlist in your pocket, even better. Get how it's just honing down and down and down to meet the customer need. That's why you use a persona. So I thought, why not use a persona to talk about what Americans, what it means to be an American? What are those traits, those fundamental things that make us Americans? And that doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, how you got here, whether you immigrated today or whether your relatives immigrated decades ago or centuries ago. We're all immigrants here, except for the Native Americans and probably, frankly, some Hispanics who have some rights to be here as well. And people from Canada just stayed where they are because their life isn't broken. But what I'm saying is, this is a country of immigrants. This is the great melting pot. That was the whole promise and the whole purpose. And many of us, and I still think it happens today, we are raised with these values and these traits as part of what makes us American. So I put together, it's my stab at it. There's no right or wrong here. This is a thing to discuss, but it's also intended to bring back some of our pride and some of our knowingness of who we are and why this is a great country and why it's worth fighting for right now. This is why it's worth fighting for us, for Americans, for what it means to be an American. So let me, without much more fanfare and obviously without the track of American music that I need behind me, I will dive in and tell you the things that I extracted from the zeitgeist of the traits that I think make us American, and then a little bit of a point of view on that and why it's so important, and really even how the Trump voters share some of these traits. That's what I mean. They're American traits. It doesn't matter who you vote for. Fundamentally, it's likely these things resonate with you. And again, like any scale, like anything out there these days, I'd say that you can turn the knob. You might have some of this and you might have more of something else. Each one of us is a brilliant mix of these things based on our own personal skills, our personal passions, the things that we are good at, all those things build up these traits. And it absolutely influence how we manifest them and how we wear them out in public. So just know all of them are not absolute. Think of them as ingredients in a recipe that is you. How's that? This is the flambe souffle that is you. So the first one, the thing that is super American, is driven by individualism and guided by ideals. And we talk a lot about this rugged individualism, and it sometimes gets us in trouble but I do believe probably every one of us has some of this in our DNA. So of that, like, you got to make it happen. And I think that's important. We do need to make it happen. Some people pray to God for help. Some people pray to the universe for help. Some people kick their own asses like me. But the thing is that we do count on ourselves to get going. So this idea of, let me just read to you how I wrote it up. Americans value their individuality. We see ourselves as independent thinkers and problem solvers. And this coexists with a strong belief in personal freedom shaped by democratic ideals, not democratic, meaning that freedom concept, ideals, and the pursuit of the American dream. The idea that anyone could succeed through hard work and perseverance isn't like that's what we've been taught our whole lives. I'm interested to know how this is taught in other homes that are not political, because my home was pretty political. And I actually did take pride in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I didn't say the God part because my parents taught me that that was manipulating us. So there you go. But I did understand why I was saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, because I was a citizen and that was my role and I was going to grow up and vote. So there you go. It's this idea of anyone can succeed through hard work and perseverance. And frankly, between you and I, seeing someone like Tim Walz as a vice presidential candidate is like, his was so won through hard work and perseverance. He's the case. Like, he is the poster child for that. Trump voters often emphasize individual rights more intensely, interpreting personal freedom as protection from government interference. So that's interesting. They actually see that they're protected from government interference. And that, and we need to, I'm going to say interference because that's a weighted word from government. You don't have to say interference, but it's based on interference is in the eye of the beholder, right? I feel like the government's interfering in my life with abortion, with the anti-abortion law. That's government interference as far as I'm concerned. So you can see how that can be interpreted. So the Trump voters interpret personal freedom as protection from government interference, which is, we'll just leave the irony over there, because they believe the same thing we believe. That's the thing. That's the point, particularly regarding regulations, taxes, and mandates. Even though they called Project 2025 a mandate for leadership, ideally, Trump voters don't approve of mandates. Trump voters view government efforts as equality of government efforts at equality. So when a government is trying to manage equality and get involved in equality, Trump voters view that as an infringement on their rights, often favoring a smaller, less centralized government approach. The problem is that's a scarcity model. We all know about scarcity models. It means if you get some, I'm not getting some. That's not how it works. That's the beauty of equity. We all get some. So it's not, we're not taking anything away from you, but that's the mentality that's in a Trump voter. So when we talk about individualism and ideals, you just need to understand the overlay, which is they feel like somebody's trying to take stuff from them. Again, scarcity model that doesn't exist, and yet it's real. When you feel it, it's real. So let's just take a moment there. Individualism as a shared American trait is true. Interesting, most Americans, regardless of party, want a safer country, a stronger economy, and fair opportunity. Harris, like Trump, sees the importance of a strong border, supporting the working class, and protecting American jobs. And her policies might look different, but they aim to preserve the values we all care about: opportunity, security, and a thriving nation. So there's the big difference. It's nuanced, I know, and you have to believe it. And that's the hardest part, I think, the hump. But for all the rest of us, when we say, who are we as American? That's what we stand for. We stand for both being willing to take personal responsibility for ourselves and that we have dreams, we have ideals. We want to be the best. That is a shared American trait. The next one is optimism and resilience. If we didn't have optimism and resilience, you guys, we wouldn't be here after 10 years of Trump. Can we just face it? We are masters at optimism and resilience. But the thing is, so is everyone that's an American. This is something that's baked in. It's how we're raised, right? Americans often exude a sense of optimism, believing in the possibility of progress and change, and even in the face of adversity. Look at all those people rebuilding their homes in hurricane country. If that's not optimism and resilience, I don't know what is. Now, they're using their heads and they're building smarter and all those things we would want them to do. We don't want to create waste, and we don't want to waste resources. We don't want to do dumb things. But there's that resilience, right? Like, we can do it. Every story, Americans feed on the stories of surviving hardship. It is like nutrition to us. And it doesn't just happen with the Democrats. Americans, while optimism and resilience are celebrated, some Trump voters frame these traits as needing protection from cultural shifts. So they still believe in optimism and resilience. They just feel, again, I'm going to go back to the scarcity model, someone else is trying to get theirs. It's not true. That's not happening here. But Trump has done a good job of creating that illusion, and it is an illusion. So, but it's good to know that optimism and resilience are, in fact, something that is an American trait. And as they worry about Trump voters worry about globalization and changing demographics, the resilience that they're showing is by preserving traditional values. That's where they're getting their resilience. They're hunkering in what they know. They're really afraid of risk. They're afraid of change. And Trump's, frankly, just made them afraid of everything. So it kind of, in some ways, it kind of like, bless their hearts. They're not changing the channel. They're not hearing any different news. But the deal is that resilience is a shared American trait. So it's all about ensuring freedom. Can't be resilient without freedom. Then you're just in jail. If you don't have freedom, there's no reason to be resilient. That's called survival. It's a different word. So whether economic opportunities happening, religious freedom, the right to build a better life, this is a shared value among both sides of voters. Harris believes that by strengthening the middle class, supporting small business, expanding access to healthcare and education, we will then set the stage for further resilience of Americans down the road, even those with traditional values. So the point is that you've got to have a leader who believes in optimism and resilience. And everybody that's mad at Kamala laughing, I think it's because it's jarring to hear in a time when we've only heard ugliness for so long. And the laughter is good. And she's doing it on purpose. And it's like a breath of fresh air. It means it's not all so serious. We're not all going to die. It's very different from Trump's message. So resilience and optimism, shared trait. Next one, being direct and open. This is where I live, right here in the direct and open department. Americans tend to be direct in their communication. They value honesty and openness. They do. Honesty used to be one of the most important American values. We have stories about Honest Abe and George Washington and the cherry tree and all kinds of weird little anecdotes we tell our children about honesty because it's really important. And we even have something called situational ethics and what is called white lies. We are so committed to honesty that we figured out a way to take care of those areas where sometimes you have to be dishonest just to move things forward. So situational ethics, right? Depending on the context, here's what I think has to happen. It's not my pure ethics, but it's based on the situation. Or what was I talking about? Oh, the idea of getting out there and I'm sorry, I lost my thought. Oh my God, I lost my thought. Situational ethics. Oh, white lies. That was it. White lies. Okay. Sorry, sometimes the words on the page distract me. The white lies have to do with when we tell a lie, we say, well, we told it because we didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings or we didn't want to cause harm. Those are ways that we still have honesty in America. We care so much. I guess it's honesty and empathy. They go together, but that's it. Direct and open is our plan, and we like honesty. And that I don't know how that fell away because it was such a huge American value. And I feel like honesty died in the darkness in 2016. Sorry, I shouldn't be first, but yeah, died in the darkness in 2016 when we allowed Trump to just lie and lie and lie and lie. And it became our American illness, right? Trump's lies became the thing that it was probably more toxic than COVID. And we have long Trump illness. So the lying has lasted a long time. So Trump voters also value direct and blunt communication but they see direct and blunt communication as the honesty and transparency. They think when Trump says things like they're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats, he's being honest because it's blunt. But they interpret his unfiltered language as telling it like it is, even when it's controversial or untrue. And this creates the broader skepticism in the Trump culture, in particular around the media. Although the media is not really, that's broad. It's broad to say the media, but selected media is really doing a bad job right now. Fourth estate is really letting us down. But that is a shared trait of being direct and being open. And both Trump and Harris seek to disrupt our system of government that they see is not working right now for regular Americans. Come on. Joe Biden's made the economy some of the best it is. There's still problems we have. There's still want to put they just they jailed and sentenced a woman who had a miscarriage to 5 to 8 years. It's been overturned, but I'm saying, or it's been overturned or they're fighting it. But I'm just saying we're out of whack. We are out of whack on what is really true. So when you see someone like Harris, she's going to go back to being direct and open and focus the government back on the working class, whether it's fighting for better wages, protecting voting rights, or breaking through old barriers to create a system that works for everyone. And that is in line with what Trump voters want. They do want a system that works. Unfortunately, they're misinformed about how it works, but they do share the value. These are American values. The next is to be innovative and entrepreneurial. One of my favorites. Like, this is so in my blood. I love being entrepreneurial. The American persona is rooted in innovation with the spirit of entrepreneurship that drives ideas and solutions. And we have a cultural emphasis on thinking outside the box, challenging norms, and striving to lead in technology, agriculture, manufacturing, business, entertainment, and more. Okay, guys, we are leaders. People look to us for knowledge. There's a lot of smart people in the rest of the world too. Like, that's awesome. We could all work together. Imagine what we could do collectively. Trump voters, on the other hand, emphasize entrepreneurial spirit as individual pursuits. It's very different. An entrepreneur is trying to build something that will affect many, usually a business, an idea, a product, something like that. An individual pursuit is not particularly entrepreneurial in and of itself. It can be, it could be, but it's harder. They focus on reducing regulations to allow businesses to thrive. And in this context, innovation is often about revitalizing traditional industries and ensuring they remain competitive against global markets. One of the big things I noticed with the Trump voters is they really have an old-timey vibe, like old-timey. And I feel like it's based on a myth, not on reality. And I don't know who's doing that. I don't know if it's Fox News or if there's a show. I don't know, but there's some shared mythology about how life used to be. And I'll grant you, it's very white. It is very white because it doesn't take any of the struggles, and it's very male, frankly. It doesn't take the struggles that people of color and women have gone through. It doesn't take the struggles LGBTQ, all this stuff. It doesn't take anybody who is an outlier into account or different. But this mythology is kind of what holds them together. And the deal is innovation is like around revitalizing traditional industries, and they want us to remain competitive against global markets, not in global markets or with global markets. And I think there's a real opportunity for us to do a bunch of cool stuff with other countries that will actually advance humanity, like looking for food sources that don't require a lot of water and dirt. We're going to need food. We're going to have problems. But that's a different thing. Okay, so there's a preference among Trump voters for economic policies that favor American-made goods. That is where a tariff would work because you put a tariff on the thing you don't want people to buy. So if I don't want you to buy Temu, can't do it with Temu because Temu individually ships. But if I didn't want you to buy Temu and Temu had a shipping warehouse here, you put the tariff on Temu goods. So that crap you're buying for $2, which is so bad for all the things, the economy, the environment, trade, everything, don't buy from Temu. But the point is, if Temu were an entity and not doing one-by-one business, that's why they're doing individual shipments to you from China, is they're trying to beat tariffs. So there you go. That kind of thing. That's the scenario where they go around. The individual sale is too low for a tariff. So, but where we share it, here's where we share innovation as a shared trait. Harris is committing to making sure American industries can compete globally. That's in line. That's absolutely what Trump voters want. She supports strengthening manufacturing, yes, investing in clean energy, bonus for our kids and our future, while expanding infrastructure to create more American jobs. Booyah. That is some good stuff because those American jobs, then we used to be leaders. The American jobs were leadership jobs, and we could teach others how to do it. People came and look how we did stuff. I'd like to go back to that. I'd like to be showing people how we are the state of the art. All right, a couple more, just a few more. Another American trait, to be patriotic and diverse. Diversity, I know this scares Trump voters, but diversity is so core to our being. This is America, the melting pot. Did you pay attention? This is like we studied the Indians' missions and why everybody comes here to try to pursue their own American dream based on these traits. So, patriotism is central to American identity and often expressed through reverence for the country's history, our symbols, and our democratic principles. At the same time, our diversity shapes our persona. People of different backgrounds, beliefs, and customs contribute to this multicultural society. Get over it. We are. And it shapes how Americans view the world. And I'll tell you what, our multiculturalism, it's a superpower. Capping it like we should be, but it is a superpower because once you're a global citizen, you understand problems on a whole different level and you're able to come to solving problems with different mindset. It's good stuff. So patriotism takes on a more traditional and often exclusive tone with Trump voters, and that's the problem. They've tried to co-opt patriotism. They use symbols like the American flag, the national anthem, and law enforcement as their emblems. Diversity might be acknowledged, but there's a preference for outsider assimilation. They want them, not the Trump supporters don't want to change. They want everybody else to change. Assimilation and the preservation of a traditional American identity, often with the critical view of multiculturalism as divisive. So this is one where the trait is to be patriotic and diverse. And I suspect there are people running around saying, I work with the Black guy. Sorry, that's so funny to me. But that's diverse. Isn't that diverse? Well, here's where we can have the shared trait. Trump voters may see law enforcement as a symbol of safety, but Harris sees law enforcement reform as a way to ensure justice for everyone. And it's reinforcing the ideals of fairness and equal treatment that America was founded on. So there's just an example with law enforcement. It's the same thing that Trump voters want. We're just using a different language. And that makes it hard, I know, but it is still about having a secure and diverse and patriotic America. All right, two more. One is around community-oriented, yet one is about being community-oriented, yet competitive. This one is amazing because it's so true. We definitely care about our neighbors. Like that's an American value. Check on your neighbors. Borrow a cup of sugar from your neighbors. Who are your neighbors? How are your neighbors doing? Did you see your neighbor? It's like you want to know your neighbors. I think I have like, knock on wood, like some of the most ideal neighbor situation. I love my neighbors and all of us know where the boundaries are. We just do. And my one neighbors, they're super friendly. They just brought me pumpkin pie the other night and they know I'm like PTSD and stuff, going through my mom stuff, but we don't cross the boundary. Like we just let each other know. So neighbors are important. So we are community oriented, but also like competitive. Do you have any apps? I wish I'd done this math. Do you know how many apps there are where we just compete with ourselves? There's like habit apps and weight loss apps, and all you're doing is competing with yourself. It's better when we compete with more, but like our very nature is to be competitive within ourselves. Now, mind you, again, you have dials for all of these. You might be really low competitive because experiences, trauma, whatever. You might have reasons you can't stand being competitive. I walked away from all professional sports because I couldn't stand how players were getting injured and nobody cared. I just thought this is criminal. This is just modern day slavery, in my opinion. I know people are getting paid this time, but it doesn't seem to have a good effect on anybody. So what I'm saying is we all can be however we are on competitive. It's a dial. For everybody, it's a dial. Same with being community oriented, but they are still things we seem to care about as Americans. So while while Americans value individual achievements, they also take pride in their communities. That's right, we do. That's like a thing, an American thing. My town, 831. I'm from the 831. Everybody started doing that. In the old days, it used to be not so crazy because we didn't have so many area codes. But anyway, the area codes got more specific. So now it could be the 831. We used to be the 408. But now those are just the cool people in Silicon Valley, and we're the 831 over here in San Francisco. But volunteering, that's an American trait. Civil engagement, grassroots movements are common expressions of community spirit. Yet competitiveness, whether it's sports, business, or politics, it's ingrained, driving ambition and desire for success. Seems I'd love to see what your self-check is on your competitiveness and your community orientation. Community engagement's valued. The focus might be more on local or like-minded communities for a Trump voter, emphasizing self-sufficiency and competition. So this is the one thing I'm noticing with the Trump voters, and it's not fair to them. I'm pretty pissed that Trump did this to them. He's essentially, because of, I believe, let me just say this, I believe because of his focus on guns. and his loyalty to the NRA. It started this kind of weird isolationist part of the world in America, where people with guns thought they really have to protect their homestead, and I guess only hang out with other gun people. I think that's called a militia, but I'm not, I don't, this is so out of my league right here. All I'm saying is that there's a belief that government policies should really be focused on real Americans for the Trump voter. And that's the problem, this real Americans, because that's not a thing. You can't say something like real Americans and then it's not a thing. There is no such thing as real Americans. We're either Americans or we're not. If you're an American, you're real. Just checking. I'm real. I just wanted to do a quick check there. So, and they want nationalism over globalism. Now, it's interesting to me to watch Trump supporters absolutely withdraw from being competitive. They do not want to compete with other nations in the globe. They just want to sit here and be quiet all by themselves. And I guess just kind of roll around in their agony and misery. Anyway, the community and competition are shared. And Harris's focus on expanding access to education, job training, healthcare aims to promote self-sufficiency, right? Because you remember Maslow, you've got to have those basic needs met. You have to be able to feel secure and like you're going to have food and lodging and all that before you can start to become self-sufficient and then begin to compete. And so this shared promotion of self-sufficiency by providing you the things you need, education, job training, healthcare, it will strengthen this self-sufficiency. So if you're stronger, that strengthens our communities, right? And absolutely, you can't not. If the individuals in the community are stronger, it's going to strengthen the community. And Harris's policies are centered on putting American workers first. Swear to God, if you haven't looked, it's absolutely true. She is going to look out for American workers, including the Buy American policies that she wants. So you don't have to tariff someone to death. You can actually promote Buy American because our stuff is high quality, which is really a good message. I like buying American, and investing in domestic manufacturing, boosting wages for working families, and ensuring that government policies benefit people living and working in America. We haven't even talked about what kind of expenses the women who can't get abortions and are having fucked up miscarriages, what kind of financial burden we put on them with this law. Nobody's talking about the dollar and cents of this thing. It's interesting to me that the insurance agencies aren't losing their minds over this, because do you know how much it costs to go in and do a nice, efficient D&C after a miscarriage failure and send your person home all ready to recover versus what they're paying now in exorbitant emergency medical fees? Insurance companies are paying so much more. So we need policies that make community orientation and competitiveness happen again. And that comes from being able to be self-sufficient and being able to know what kind of costs you're incurring in your life and your ability to meet those costs. Seems so reasonable. But Trump's plan, unfortunately, is to throw us into chaos. We're not going to know where our money's going at all, because we're not going to be able to figure out why one thing suddenly got so hard and something else isn't happening at all. That's what's going to happen here. So the last trait that we have in common is this blend of pragmatism and idealism. And I tell this story a lot, probably told it before, but when I went to Israel, I had a very short visit in Israel, and I ended up learning about Israel at night. My business contact took the time out of his life, and we did all night long. We toured Israel and Jaffa and all over, and he gave me his personal view on Israel. But one of the things he said, because I'm looking at all this development, and I'm thinking 1947, crap, and what's going on, and how fast did Israel grow? And it's super grown. I mean, it's very grown up for not being around very long. But he said something to me. He said, Americans lose themselves in principle. They waste way too much time on principle, and they don't spend nearly enough time on being pragmatic. And I thought that was spot on, because we do, when you have time, when you have the luxury of time and or money, you can afford to be really principled. But if you don't have time or money, then you pretty much need to be pragmatic. And in America, it's a privilege to be idealistic. It's a privilege. And so we've had these two, this trait of being pragmatic and idealistic have gone together. And for some of us, like me, I tend to wander into idealism a lot, because I like thinking of the future, and my brain really loves imagining what could be. And my pragmatism is what I have to smack myself in the head with and say, no, 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 you got to just get it done. Like right now, it's about getting this done right now. Don't go way out there. So thank God that's why I crochet, because I don't go way out there and do it, and there I go. So this Americans navigate this tension, and I think it's probably a healthy tension between pragmatism and idealism, right? We navigate this tension and use pragmatic solutions for immediate problems and idealistic vision for the future. And that's probably the best way for everybody to do this. What do I need to do practically and pragmatically in the short term? And what do I want to do? That's a dream, that's an aspiration. That's part of my ideals. The blend is evident in policy debates, cultural conversations, and personal beliefs about improving the world. And this is what used to make debates and things so fun, is you actually got to understand someone's view of the world. We've had to essentially infer it from Trump. His view of the world, of course, is that I guess we're all going to die in a dark hole of despair on this garbage heap that is America, that has none of these traits. That's Donald Trump. And the thing is, it's just him. It's just about him. It's not about us. It's not about the voters. It's not about Americans. It's about him. He's going to die in a dark place because he's done everything in his life to earn that. But let's back off. The blend is evident in policy debates. So it used to be so cool to hear this idealism versus the practicality. Trump supporters lean more heavily towards pragmatism, and they view Trump as a disruptor who makes practical, real-world decisions. I bring that in, practical, real-world decisions, again, based on his frame of reference, even if they defy political norms, because they do. Now we know a lot of these ideas come from outsiders, etc. Elon, Thiel, all these outsiders, Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society. I could go on and sorry, get heavier and heavier as I think about all the people that give voice to this man paint suit walking around named Trump. I mean, he just doesn't have a soul. So it's really hard to attach ideas to him other than his hate, misery, and self-loathing. But look, if Trump supporters lean towards pragmatism, then fine. Their idealistic pursuit of making America great again is framed as a return to the past. And I believe that's a myth that they believed worked for them rather than really looking forward. So if there is an American ideal that has been lost, I think it's the last ideal, this idea of pragmatism versus idealism. I think Trump has worn down, exhausted the idealism in these folks that follow him. They don't see a path out. They don't know what an alternative would look like. And their only answer to anything different is to call it stupid, use the C word. They're using the R word a lot. It's just ridiculous. The arguments that they're making are incoherent. But mostly, I believe that's because we've lost a very important American ideal, a very important American trait, and that's idealism. But we need to get back to that. That's my thing. So Harris and Trump supporters want America to be strong. All of us, every American wants America to be strong. And Trump's vision draws a shared myth of the good old days. Harris is focusing on building a future that includes everyone, ensuring we preserve what's good while adapting to new changes. We don't have to choose between idealism and pragmatism. Like, this is not a choice. Her policies aim to address real problems, pragmatism right now, like housing, affordable housing, and fair wages, while pushing us to be great again. But I don't mean Trump great again. I mean American idealism that innovates and leads and convinces that we know what we're doing. Okay, so let's come back together and put America back on course. Like, that's what we got to do, right? Regardless of how this election goes. And I'm going to go with it's Kamala's going to win, because I got to believe in decency. I just got to believe in decency. It's at least for the next 6 days, right? Trump's approach to shaking up the system resonates because it addresses a frustration with the status quo. That's what he's doing. He's managing to address that status quo. And Fox has helped him create this myth. Harris understands the frustration too. A lot of us on her side are still frustrated. And she's committed to changing what isn't working. The biggest difference is I hear her listening. I don't hear Trump listening. I hear her listening. Trump listens to oligarchs and rich people. Kamala's listening to us. She's literally feet on the street talking to people. And if she's anything like I think she is, It goes in her brain, and it goes in there she'll tap it later. I suspect she's really good at holding on to things to consider later. She's not going to just lickety split make fast decisions to prove that she can make fast decisions. She makes thoughtful decisions, and I really appreciate that. I think we've needed thoughtfulness. I pretty much, that's why I was relieved that Joe Biden won, because I swear to God, I didn't feel like I got to stay all over that man's ass. Like he's just getting the job done. Are there things that could be better? Of course. No person president is perfect. If you find one, let me know. There's always things that can be better, but I'm not stressed out when Joe's in charge because I know he's living by these American ideals and traits. This is how he's living. He's living by these American traits. We share more common ground beyond the differences than we realize. At the heart of it, Trump and Harris supporters want a stronger and safer, more prosperous America. True. We may debate the path, but we're all driven by the same desire to protect our freedoms, create opportunities, ensure that the American dream remains alive for the next generation. And the real challenge isn't just in winning elections. It's in preserving our shared ideals. It's about recognizing that we're all Americans bound by the same foundational values of individualism, resilience, innovation. And if we focus on these common values rather than our divisions, we can move forward together, strengthening the nation we all love. It's time to move past what divides us and focus on what unites us, a commitment to America that works for all of us. Let's work to create a country. I feel like a candidate now, but I feel this so strongly, guys. I feel this so strongly. So I'm going to keep podcasting after the election. I just want to keep doing things and trying to find common ground. It's weird for the lawyer's daughter to try to find common ground, but maybe that's what I'm going to try to do, common ground. So it's time to move past what divides us, focus on what unites us. It's a commitment to set an America that works for all of us. Let's work to create a country where opportunity is real, freedom is protected, and everyone has a fair shot, no matter who they voted for. America has always thrived when we come together. Think 9/11, guys. We came together hard, not when we tear each other apart. Let's build on that legacy, not just for our party or our candidate, for the good of the country. We are our home. I mean, they're all like aspirational and everything. Guys, big day. Mama's going to be on the ellipse later today, but mostly I just wanted to remind us of what it is to be an American. And we can agree or disagree, but I suspect these all probably resonate with you at some level. And now you just to decide what it is about being an American that makes you, and do any of these make your heart sing, like some of them make you. Thank you for listening. I'll try to talk to you tomorrow. That's my plan.